Hello everyone, welcome back to another weather forecast video, and today we will be going over our very active weather pattern in the US right now, bringing severe weather, flooding rainfall, and snow to many parts of the US. So first I'm going to look at our watches and warning map. Here we can see in these purplish blues, these are our winter weather advisories for our current snow area moving through, bringing some mixed precipitation and snow, especially in the higher states up here in Wisconsin and Michigan. And our by here, special weather statements for those possible brief, heavy amounts of snowfall that may come. We can see this big area of green over here is for our possibility of flooding rainfall over the next few days. This is flood watch with these lighter uh, greens being our flood warnings here, as rain is really being wrung out over here across many states, bringing possibility of some severe flooding. And we got some cold weather advisories, and those will eventually expand as we have a nice Arctic blast coming to the US, which I will bring up in a little bit here. And then some general winter weather in the higher elevations out here in the west. And if we bring it over here to the Storm Prediction Center, you can see we have an enhanced risk of severe weather for day 2 tomorrow, Saturday, February 15th. We have a 10% hatched risk for tornadoes. So we have the decent possibility of a few strong tornadoes and tornadoes in general over a wide area here. And we have a large area under a 30% unhatched risk of wind, meaning we have a possibility of wind of 60 miles per hour within a 30% chance within 25 miles of any given point. And we have a 5% chance that spreads all the way up to Louisville and down to Houston, Texas. So large expansive area of possible damaging wind gusts. And then we have a smaller 15 and 5% chance for some possible hail out of these storms that could really get going. So overall enhanced risk of severe weather in place for a large area, and then even larger slight and marginal risk. So this will be a possible big severe weather maker, so we'll continue to keep our eye on that. And I would be live tomorrow, but I have many things to be doing, so I cannot be live for this, but we do have to be on the lookout for some possible significant storms tomorrow. And speaking of that flooding rainfall I was talking about earlier, we have a rare day 2 high risk of flooding rainfall for areas in Tennessee and Kentucky, and then a larger moderate and slight risk going out from there. So we have a high possibility of flooding rainfall going throughout the day tomorrow into the evening, as you have that snow up in the northern areas here, and then some really heavy flooding rainfall here. And then down in the south here, we have that chance for significant severe weather. So a high means there's at least 70% chance of having flooding rainfall within 25 miles of any given point, and a high risk for excessive rainfall is not very common, so that means they are very confident that we will see at least some significant flooding. And that's why they already issued the early um, watches for flooding, and they even issued some PDS watches for significant flooding. So we'll have to be on the lookout for not only the snow, but also the flooding rainfall and the possibility for significant severe weather. So tomorrow could be a pretty active day for many people on the eastern side of the US here. And if we bring it over here to our reflectivity on the HRRR, we can get an idea of the next 48 hours of what our radar may be looking like. So we can see here snow beginning to form out here in the Iowa region. And as we drag this out, this is where we get our first burst of snowfall for areas in Wisconsin and Illinois before going into Michigan there over the next couple hours, bringing in the possibility for a few inches in Wisconsin. And then we can see going into the beginning of the day, that rainfall beginning, that flooding rainfall beginning to develop in areas like Tennessee and Kentucky, and our second band of snow beginning to form in these Midwest states here. And we got a pretty nice possibility of snowfall for many of these Midwestern states, bringing the possibility for a couple inches. And then our severe weather threat develops when this line of storms begins to develop down here. And you can see very quickly they form a nice line of storms, which is where that possibility of damaging winds comes into play. but we still will have the possibility for possible prefrontals or embedded tornadoes. And with the parameters in place, some of those tornadoes could be strong, so we'll want to be on the lookout for that. And as we drag that out, we can see that line just continues out to the east before starting to break apart and becoming sub-severe. And that snow really gets ramping up there in areas like Canada and the Atlantic region there. And if we bring it over here to the GFS, we can get more of a long-term radar here, where we can go a little more out in the future. So you can see that snow band I was talking about for today. And then that line of storms developing down in the south and that flooding rainfall, as that rain is going to be really heavy and sit over some of these areas for hours. And then once that clears out, we can already see our next low pressure moving into the Arizona Four Corners region before ejecting out, bringing the possibility for some snow in more of these mid-states here. Now, we're not too confident or sure on that, but we do have the possibility for some heavy snow in these areas in the 100-hour range. So this would be about midweek next week, and possibly some more severe weather and or flooding rainfall in the southern states. And once that clears out, models have been hinting at the possibility of a really good northeastern storm here. But because it's so far out, we're not going to really talk about this, as there's a very, very high possibility that this will just change within time. So we're not going to get, any hype going. We're not going to make the snow lovers happy just yet, because we don't want to forecast ahead of time. But we will be watching that, as that could be pretty impactful in the future. And if we bring it over here to our total snowfall, we can get an idea of our total snowfall out of these next two systems we got coming in here. So going through this evening, we could see the possibility of a few inches being dropped in Wisconsin, going into Illinois and Michigan. And then come Saturday night, we could see more snow get dropped in Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then in Canada here. And by the time we wake up on Monday, we could have possibilities of a good 6 or 7 inches here in Wisconsin, almost up to 10 inches in some places here, and most of Michigan will be covered in a good amount of snow. Light band in Iowa here, and then some places in the high New England areas here. And then that storm I was talking about midweek does have the possibility of trying to bring a decent amount of snowfall to areas like Missouri here. And again, this isn't set in stone, as it's still plenty of days out, but we will be watching for the possibility of a snowstorm in that mid area, and even the Prediction Center has highlighted the possibility of heavy snow in that area going into the mid of next week. And the last thing I wanted to cover here today was our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. With all these constant storms, we're going to have low pressure eject off into the southern area here. And before we get to this time frame, we'll likely have some hazardous cold in the plains region before that moves on into the southeastern states here. And this is for the February 20th to 24th time frame. And before we reach that over the next 6 days, we could see some hazardous cold up in the higher plains or even the mid to lower plains. So that's all for our weather forecast today. I hope you guys enjoyed my video, and I hope to see you in the next.